Hi, welcome back to another edition of Inside Great Lakes Sailing. My name is Greg Norman, your host. I think we've got a pretty interesting show for you. The episode this week will feature the Trans-Superior race, which just finished up in Duluth. And we're going to talk a little bit to our great looper, Nagui Matta, who kind of finally showed up after a year of going around the Great Loop. We're going to talk to him about the adventures and all that meant. But first, we're going to talk with Bruce Aiken. Bruce won the Trans-Superior. He actually was the first to cross the line of the Trans-Superior. And for the second time in 6 years, he's won the Barthel Trophy, which is given to the winner of the accumulative races to both the Mackinac, both Chicago and Port Huron. And then this is cumulative time. And we're going to talk to him about the race, his summer. And he's a really interesting guy. He's involved in the ski community. And we'll talk to Bruce in just a couple seconds. And then we're going to spend some time with Nagui. We've been kind of featuring Nagui through the series over the last year. He took off about 13 months ago to do the Great Loop. We're going to talk to him about sort of the insight to the process. If you're interested in doing the Loop, you want to see this interview because I think he'll kind of give you some insight that might be a little bit different than we've talked about. We're not going to talk about great places. We're going to just talk about what it takes to make a decision, sort of a bucket list, and take that opportunity. So I think you'll find it to be a really interesting interview with him, and that'll be up as soon as we're done talking with Bruce. Just a couple of quick things. This weekend is Women on Water, which is at Bayview this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Dawn Riley will be in town to take a whole bunch of young ladies and women, teach them a little bit about sail racing. And we're going to spend some inside look at what goes on with that. The Detroit Cup is coming up also at Detroit Bayview, so that'll be fun to watch, and we're going to get a little bit of that insight. And there's also a number of other races going on as we get into the football season, the Lions playing. So we'll kind of keep track. We'll be doing this show probably for another 4 weeks, and we hope you stay tuned. So up next is Bruce Aikens. Bruce talking about the Trans-Superior and a little bit about winning the Barthel Trophy. Hi, welcome back. We're talking with Bruce Aikens, who had just completed the Trans-Superior. Bruce, you were the first guy across and also the winner of the famed Barthel Trophy. So first of all, congratulations. And second of all, you raced the Mac, you raced both the Port Huron and Chicago. Is this your first? This is not your first Trans-Superior.
No, this is our fifth.
Okay. What is it about that race that you like? And talk a little bit about the race that you guys just had.
Lake Superior is one of the coolest race courses all of us have ever been on. I mean, every time we head out on that lake around Whitefish Point, it is a big body of water that you're facing, and just a fantastic challenge. So, you're running east to west, so instead of north south like we do on the southern lakes. So obviously the weather patterns are coming through in a different mode and a faster pace. Just a lot going on in that race course.
It was good weather in this race. It looked like it was a little bit of tacking coming up, especially past the Keweenaw. And looking at the yellow box or yellow.
Yeah, we in fact the last two races have been mostly downwind. Talisman is one of the best upwind boats in the world, so we kind of pushed to go up into Lake Superior for westerly wind, and we've been getting a lot of east. So it's a very interesting lake weather-wise. So we had mostly downwind really until we hit the Minnesota shore. 30 miles from the finish, we were beating. It was I never really put my shoes on the whole race, so I know there's a lot of fear about going out there and it's snowing, but in the 5 races we've done, it's really been absolutely beautiful.
You guys had a chance to see both of the sunrises coming up with the dual suns?
No, we did not see that. I think I was off watch on that one.
Tim Profit, who's on Fast Tango, actually competing with you for the trophy.
Yes.
With his finishes, he posted a picture with the two suns, and there must have been some kind of reflection. I spent a lot of time on Lake Superior, and I don't ever remember two suns coming up either east or west. So it was just one of those things. Talk a little bit about your boat. You have a 58, and I'm going to make sure I say it right. Boatin?
It's Boatin Karkik. So
okay.
Boatin Karkik was a design team that the owner of the original owner had designed the boat, and Green Marine built it in England. Terry Hutchinson was running that program. They were built it to win the 2004 IRC World Championships in Italy. That didn't quite work out for them. So they brought the boat back to the United States, raced it for a year, and then they donated it actually to the Coast Guard.
So that boat is obviously in the same fleet with all the Santa Cruz 70s and all the big boats. You're in with the big boys.
Yeah, we're the smallest Santa Cruz 70.
Okay. Yeah. Well, those are pretty fast boats. The other thing too is that when you look at the Macs, both the Mac races, you're talking about a couple hundred boats, and in the Lake Superior race, you only had 36 this year, which is coming up because 2 years ago I think they only had 28 or 29 boats.
Yeah, I think this was very competitive for us with Stripes, MC Squared. I mean, Armante, they sailed. I mean, we pressed the whole race, trying to get ahead of those guys, MC Squared. They just stuck with us and stuck with us and stuck with us. So I tip my hat to those guys for having a really, really great race.
You're a long-time racer, I'm assuming. You've been doing this a while.
Long time, yeah. We've been over 30 max on both sides, and so.
Okay. Well, would you be surprised to know that your name is going to be on a trophy that's going to be kept there in Duluth? I think they lend it out to be able to, view it from time to time. They take great care of it, but it's the trophy itself has an interesting history, including a name on the trophy that was one of the winners was Ted Turner.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, to be on a trophy with Ted Turner is quite an honor.
And if you read the history of the it was the original race it was done in Lake Michigan. It was a one, sort of a little bit like the Chicago to Mac race. It said J24s were campaigned one year, North America 40s. And finally in 2002, they campaigned it to put it out to the, so it was a 3-lake association event with the Lake Huron Yachting Association, Lake Michigan Sail Racing Federation, and the Lake Superior Yachting Association. And they made this determination there's this kind of an overall award. So this is an achievement, certainly above the other 2 races, because it's the best finish of the 3 races. And that's got to be, it's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, we actually won it in 2019.
Okay.
So we've been there before, but this one, I mean, this was, Fast Tango had 2 unbelievable races in the Port Huron Mac and Chicago Mac to win overall, in Port Huron to get second in their division in Chicago. I mean, just laid it down. So we went into the race owing them 55 minutes.
55 minutes.
And they were kind of our focus. At the end, it shifted, and we ended up winning by 15 minutes, I think. But
who was the second place team?
The Fair 49.
Okay.
From Amante.
So the corrected time is 15 minutes. You think about 3 races that
150 hours, 15 minutes.
Yeah, but a cumulative of what, about 875 miles or so, give or take.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's probably 150 hours total racing, and 15 minutes. I think that's racing on the Great Lakes today. We are in a dogfight every minute we're out there. And the cool thing is, particularly in our division, everyone is capable of winning. Every boat is polished. Every boat has teams that have been together for many years. They know these boats. So it's just I just think racing on the Great Lakes right now is just in such a good place, for us competitors, because we have to fight our ass off every minute out there to win, to get third, to just get, be in the race.
Both the 52s that raced in both Regatta and Chicago, they were about 3 minutes apart in the Chicago race, and I think about 4.5 minutes in the Regatta race. So your point is obviously right on. It's such a competitive race. So as a skipper, is it more anxiety or more fun knowing that you're in that competitive relay? You're not going to run away with somebody. That I got to think that showing up has just got to make it better and more fun for you.
If I sailboat raced to win, I probably wouldn't have been in the sport for very long, because that is a rare thing to do. But if we're in the hunt, if we have a shot, that's what we expect of ourselves. And luckily, we're usually in that position, and it doesn't always work out, but that's kind of how we look at it. If we're in the hunt, we're doing our job. Whether we win or lose, that can swing many ways, but it's always good to be in the hunt.
We've had some recent conversations with skiers who are becoming successful sailors. Stephen Kircher was on. You've been a long-time Cussa guy. We talked a little bit about sail racing and skiing. you see a correlation between the two?
Yeah, I think it's the same. It's the same thing. Winning and skiing is also a very hard thing. A little wrong, edge, a little movement here, and you're on your ass, and you work so hard to try to win the state ski championships, and you get nothing. But you do it because you love it, and I think that's the kind of sportsman that it takes to be out there on this race course sailing.
Last question: what's left for the summer? Is there any big races left?
We got the NM championships in Harbor Springs this coming weekend, and then we're done. we're gonna look to catch some salmon.
Leave it. Where do you keep it during the summer? Up in Muskegon?
It stays in Muskegon, yeah.
Okay.
Those guys are great.
So it's one of the conversations we've had, guys like you and the bigger boats. It's almost like AAA baseball. It's really not just a bunch of guys sailing. Eric Weinsman might be the only one that actually has family on board. And I only say that to give people a cool understanding of just how dedicated you guys are to the process and how professional it is. This is not, double-handed beer hand on the weekend kind of stuff. You guys are serious racers in very large bodies of water.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the teams are elite, and a lot of teams come from outside the area into the Great Lakes, and they normally are quite surprised about what they face.
Yeah. Well, listen, Bruce, I appreciate the time. Have a great summer and good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thank you very well. Thank you very much.
Just want to take a couple seconds and thank Bruce for spending some time with us. We'll get to it real quick, and we'll get on with Nagui, and I think you'll find some really cool conversation about the Great Loop. Welcome back inside Great Lakes Sailing. We finally get a chance to spend some time with Nagui Matta, who is the Great Looper. We've been having a lot of conversations with you over the last year. About a year and 12 days, does that sound about right?
That's about right. I left in mid-July, I came back on 24th, yeah.
We're sitting outside the Crescent's clubhouse here in front of the harbor, and you got your feet on the ground. So what has been the biggest adjustment coming back after being on the boat for a year?
Oh, there's lots of adjustments. Just getting back in the routine of things, and I guess it took a week to get my land legs back. I was still moving after a week being a year on the water.
Okay, now there's one of the questions I want to ask. Yeah. What are land legs as compared to sea legs? Because I say that because I've never spent enough time on the boat to ever get sea legs.
Yeah,
so explain that. Is it balance?
It must be some balance or some sort of equilibrium, sense of equilibrium. It's like when I'm during the trip. If things like you're standing in a shower or something, you really feel it moving.
Okay.
And that stayed with me for about a week till after I came back. It's just uncanny. It takes a little while to get your land legs back.
It's got to be some kind of inner ear thing.
Oh yeah. Balance and inner ear and equilibrium. Yeah.
Okay.
So just constantly moving. You get used to that.
So to you, that's not a euphemism. There is in fact land legs and sea legs.
Absolutely.
Right.
I felt it all along. Yeah.
All right. Now the practical issues: cars, places to live, money, all the things that go with those normal things. That's got to take time. I would think like losing your wallet. You got to start from scratch and kind of go every place and sort of ease into life.
Absolutely. First thing I did is I had my driver's license that's expired.
Okay.
So I had to go to renew it. My registration tags had expired, so I had to go get those, and I was able to get those fairly quickly. Then the car wouldn't start, of course. So,
why? Bad battery?
Bad battery.
It was sitting for a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I replaced the battery, and then there was other electrical problems that came up with the car, but it's all taken care of. It took about 3-4 days to iron all that out. Now I have wheels, I can get around, and
Semi-permanent address.
No, I'd say
permanent
address. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Here, not too far from here, Grosse Pointe Park.
Okay, so now you're settled in to some extent. That takes care of it. You obviously have seen the family, the grandkids, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you had time to take the deep breath and go, okay, what's next?
Not yet. But I've been thinking about it all along. But nothing is final yet. There's lots of adventures. In fact, I was talking this morning with a friend of mine that has a Rossboro, just like my boat, and they're up in Nova Scotia. They actually trailered their boat, and they met a couple of other Rossboros from all over the country, and they're spending a couple of weeks there. So that's one possibility. I got to get if I'm going to do that, I need to get a big enough tow vehicle. I have a trailer for the boat, but I don't have a big enough tow vehicle. So one possibility is for my next phase of cruising is to just tow the boat to beautiful destinations, and whether it's Maine, whether it's Nova Scotia, whether it's down to Florida in the wintertime, lots of options.
Okay. Before you started this, when we talked, this was a bucket list lifetime deal.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about section 2, chapter 2 of cruising.
Yes.
So obviously something bit to make this much more than just a hobby,
It is.
almost an avocation.
It is. And that, wait a minute, there's also definitely a second loop on the horizon. It's probably a little bit ways off, probably maybe 5-6 years off, but there's definitely a second loop in the plans.
5-6 years, we could both be dead.
Oh, well, I could
We're
be dead
both
tomorrow.
old, right?
Speak for yourself,
Well,
man.
how old are you?
I'll be 70 next January.
All right, and I'll be 70 next summer. My point is, we're on the back nine here. We're not on the front nine. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, I've known people personally who have done this trip solo at 80 plus years old.
So age, to your mind, if you're in good shape, that
You're in
age
good
doesn't
shape,
matter.
you know what you're doing. If you slow down a little bit, but you can do it. There's not a problem at all.
Okay, so let's start with a boat. That's where I want to start with.
Yeah.
Sleeping. That first couple nights sleeping on a real bed. Not that you have a real bed on your own boat, but was there a difference?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
You're like the guy who was in prison and had to sleep on the cement, so when he came home for the first month, he had to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You've seen that in the movies, right? Guy sleeps on the cement or goes on the floor because he's been in the jungle for all these weeks.
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
But it was a lot more comfortable. It was a lot more comfortable.
All right.
And air conditioning was always good. It was always good to have in the house.
I'm guessing anything south of Ohio, you got to have an air conditioner.
Actually, I didn't use it as much as I expected.
Really?
Surprisingly, the fans on the boat worked really, really well. I used it a few times in Florida, but it wasn't like every day I have to turn the AC on and run it for a couple hours. No, nothing like that at all.
Boat worked well. You didn't have any problems with the engine. The engine worked the entire time. Did you ever have it fixed at any point?
Knock on wood, I stopped about 4 times to have it routine maintenance, oil changes, and I did have one problem. Did I tell you about the problem with the prop I had?
No.
Oh yeah, so I have an outboard, and I hit a rock, and it was at the Great Kills Yacht Club, and I was backing out of the slip, and the local guys, they're great people. They're just like Crescent here. They're amazing people. But backing out of the slip, I hit a rock, and we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened is it spun the hub on the prop. There's a hub, it's a rubber bushing basically that protects the gears when you hit something, and it just lets go. And so a couple days later, I didn't have any speed at all. I was going like 4 miles an hour, just about it. So I had to stop and get the hub replaced. And it took a few days. I had to order online and deliver it, but it worked out. Other than that, honestly, there's no mechanical issues. I hear lots of stories about people hitting props and having to wait for weeks, if not months, to get replacement props.
I think outboards are pretty resilient. I say that. We just bought a new dinghy,
You did? Okay.
and the 2.5 Merc that we bought new 3 years ago has been sitting on the wall. We used it for a year, hung it up, put it in the water, pulled once, pulled twice, start up, and it's been fine for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's great. Outboards, these Yamahas are built like rocks. Just to put it like this. They're solid, no problems at all.
On the boat, you had a little bit of problem coming across, I think, Pensacola area in terms of sort of a little bit rougher. That in Chesapeake, maybe?
There was about 3 spots where it was a little dicey, and there was maybe 4 spots. There was one on the Albemarle Sound, something like that, and that was really. And I shouldn't have been traveling that day. Another really dicey spot was on Lake Michigan. I was going from Holland to Saugatuck. It's only about 10 miles. And it was a little windy, and the waves were forecast to be a little high. I said, "Come on now, it's only like 6-10 miles. You know, what can go wrong?" Well, I shouldn't have gone out. That was pretty nasty. And then the last nasty spot was going from Manasquan on the outside to Staten Island. That was the only stretch where you had to go in the ocean, and the swells. They weren't breaking swells, but they were pretty high rollers, and it was uncomfortable right now.
Next time, bigger boat. Next time, same boat.
Good question. TBD. But if I was a betting man, I'd say maybe a little bit bigger boat.
Same kind of boat.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. It's a work in progress.
What would you be looking for in a slightly bigger boat? Is it the comfort? Is it the stability? The size? What would you be looking for?
I think
All the above.
one of the things I would be looking for, I love having outboards. They're great, okay?
Easier to service.
Easier to service, but they are fuel hogs compared to a traditional diesel that's on a big slow trawler. So nice things, you have the speed when you need it. There were days when I went 20 miles an hour. And there were days when I was like putzing around at 8, 9, 10 miles an hour. But my fuel bill was higher than I expected.
Count for just a percentage and a ballpark percentage of your overall bill for the year. But the fuel took how much of your percentage of how much you think?
Roughly about 20-25%.
Oh, that is
Yeah, it was a high. I was, and again, partially because the boat was overloaded, and I took a lot of crap with me that I shouldn't have taken.
No, I can empathize. We sailed our whole lives, and for about 6 years we ended up with a flybridge
Yeah,
We're not cold.
cargo boat.
We had a couple non-cold ones. Here you go.
that's okay.
Trying to do an interview for TV.
That's all right.
You start over. I can understand you start over. I can understand the gas issue. We had for about 5 years we ended up with a flybridge cargo. I remember filling up in Lexington, like $600. Sold the boat. We average about $23 a year on the sailboat. We don't travel that much, but my point is, so I get that point.
Yeah, and Canada, the fuel, gas prices were higher.
Okay.
So when I saw fuel for under $2 a liter, which is about $8 a gallon, which is after the exchange rate is maybe $6.50 a gallon. So it's still expensive by U.S. standards.
So next time out, and again, hypothetically saying, you're looking at maybe not an outboard?
Probably,
not sure yet.
Possibly. That's a consideration. Let's put it this way.
Okay, so fuel is a cost. So what else? What a bigger boat also gets you what?
More room.
Okay.
More room and more comfort, more creature comforts. I think little things like little takeaways. Like I took a bike with me. I didn't use it that much.
Or a fishing rod.
You're never gonna let me down on
Keep
that
going.
one.
We'll talk about that later.
No, we won't. But the bike I didn't use it very much. It was a full size bike. You know, I just had to go cheap and not get one of those folding bikes or electric bikes, and so it took a lot of space, and it was difficult to get on and off the boat.
You know, they make electric folding bikes. You know that?
I know. All it takes is a little bit more money, a little bit more cash. I'm retired, remember?
No, I get that. We're both. Hey, we're almost the same age. Well, I'm 6 months younger than you, but I get your point. So obviously, the next time you also talk a little bit about the possibility of having maybe a companion on board.
Yes, Anne Marie's going to join me hopefully next. This is the timing. She's still working, and so we got to wait for her retirement.
Do you see that as a plus? Not because of the companionship. Certainly, that's a plus. Just because of the safety and just because of being able to, share that dream.
Absolutely. There's several takeaways from my trip. One of them was that it was quite an adventure. Number two is you had to deal with some adversity and some uncertainties and some bad weather, and having somebody else to bounce things off of them, simply from that respect, it is really important. It would be very helpful. And besides, it's the companionship is a lot more. There's a lot of new places I explored, and a lot of places I enjoyed seeing. It would be awesome to share that with someone.
This is just one of those questions that hits me off. I'm thinking as I'm talking to you, I look at the map where you've traveled. A loop, based on what you did, is a clockwise loop. Does anybody go counterclockwise?
Well, I went counterclockwise.
Okay, then let me ask the question. Do they go in both directions?
Yeah.
Is it equal in both directions?
It's the same distance, but
Well, it has to be the same distance.
Yeah.
Start. Hey, 2 points is going to be the same spot.
You asked.
No, I get that.
But the reason people not as many people go clockwise is that for a good third of the trip, you're going to be going against the current and the rivers.
Okay, so that's all
more
right.
fuel.
So it's practical.
It's exactly, and the other thing is the seasons. With the seasons, a lot of people wherever they start, they want to end up in Florida in the wintertime, basically.
Okay.
And so it just lends itself to big.
I just think that's a question. You look at the map, but you don't calculate all the things you're calculating.
I think the majority of people do it counterclockwise.
The highlight of the trip for you was?
What are we talking about here? Destination, location, or just takeaways? Or
The highlight for you was?
I think my biggest highlight was just the sense of adventure and discovery. Every single day, it was a new experience.
We're obviously out on this long trip.
Yeah.
We had talked before you had taken off, sort of a planned corporate kind of guy.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, the spontaneity of this trip, you're on it.
Yeah.
My question is really, really simple. You finally come home.
Yeah.
You've had this year of experience. do you consider spontaneity as part of your lifestyle, or do we fall back into bad habits?
I think I got to be careful not to let myself get back into that routine kind of thing. I like to maintain that sense of, spontaneity and sense of adventure.
What would stop you?
Just the routine of everyday life. That's basically, and you gotta work to make it spontaneous. It just doesn't come easy.
How many times have we heard at our age, and again, we're the same age, how many times have we heard you can't change spots on the old guy?
Oh, yes, you can. Yes,
Okay,
you can.
you believe that you can?
I really believe that, especially after going through such an adventure. You learn so much. You change. It changes your personality. How you deal with adversity. That was a big lesson. Kind of like, you got to be prepared for the unexpected. You can't plan for everything, but you got to prepare. You got to this stuff that's going to happen to you on the loop, whether it's hitting the prop or as we talked about earlier, or hitting something or somebody falling overboard. You just got to be willing and able to deal with it.
Do you recognize that the highlight that you mentioned is a personal goal, mental approach to something, not that you saw a great view of something, a sunset? It was it's so profound.
It is. That's kind of my top takeaway is that ability to be spontaneous and to go with the flow and be flexible and deal with unexpected crap that's going to happen.
Would you have appreciated it at 40?
It would have been different. It would have been for different reasons.
Okay.
I would appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the exploring. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty to see and do, and there was some amazing places I've been and seen. Shiloh National Cemetery and the Battle of Shiloh. That was one of the highlights. But all these are kind of like places, destinations. I'm talking more about personally how it affected me, how the loop affected me.
You're on a year on the water.
Yeah.
We are covered on this globe, 3/4 of the globe is covered by water.
Yeah.
We know more about the moon than we do about our own oceans.
Yeah.
Does that sense of understanding become a little different when you're on the water as much as you were?
The water is amazing. It's what's the phrase? Friend and foe at the same time.
Right.
It's
Like fire.
Yeah, fair enough. Such beauty and such amazing sunsets, such amazing experiences on the water, the wildlife I saw, but also could get quite treacherous and quite nasty.
Any point being lonely at that trip at all? Laying in bed, driving, any point? And you guys at least got to have a little bit of that, right?
I wouldn't call it lonely,
Okay.
but in the last month, I was anxious to get home.
Okay.
The last 3 travel days, let's put it this way, my average miles per day for the whole trip were about 50 miles a day, 50 miles a day. The last 3 travel days, I was doing 100 miles. Why? I'm just ready to come home, anxious to get home.
Okay, so let me ask this question. Everybody you talk to, and you read about, and anybody that talks about the loop on YouTube, they all get a sense of sadness because they're getting off the boat. Yours is the opposite. Does that go back to coming home with such a great family?
That's certainly part of it. I mean, the last couple of weeks since I've been here, I spent a lot of time with my kids and grandkids, and the boat. I still haven't unloaded the boat fully.
Okay, let's go through some very specifics.
Okay,
Cheapest place to stay?
free walls. There's a lot of those and anchoring. There's a lot of those certainly in Canada. Beautiful anchorages up in Georgian Bay. I'm just going because that's the most recent. Lots of nice anchorages in the rivers. Florida, the free walls were hard to come by, but they were there. There's plenty of anchors in Florida.
Percentage of time on the hook?
Very little for me. I'd
Okay.
say less than 10%.
Most expensive anchorage had to be outside of the Statue of Liberty.
It is $7 a foot.
What's
Unbelievable.
that come to? It's $210 a night for a 30-foot boat. Oh my
Yes,
God.
yes.
Get a hotel for that.
Gee, well, expensive hotel too.
Right.
And it really wasn't that great of a facility. You're just paying for the location. You get up in the middle of the night or after sunset, you can see the New York skyline and the Statue of Liberty lit up. That's beautiful.
Best food?
That's a tough one. I'd say 5 top 3 meals. Okay.
Okay.
A couple of them were Florida.
And then what'd you eat?
Oh,
Heavy seafood, right?
well, one of them was boiled or steamed crabs.
Okay.
That was actually in South Carolina.
Okay.
And Italian food in Kingston, Ontario.
Oh.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And Italian food in Melbourne, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Italian over, you're on the water.
I know,
That's
I know.
interesting. Do you favor Italian food in general?
Actually, not really,
Okay.
but
Just a
it was
good
just
meal.
it just happens to see a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay. Best sight.
Best.
What caught your eyes the most? What is it that you still have in the back of your head
Oh,
that you saw?
St. John's River, down in Florida. It starts in Jacksonville and goes south to a place called Pontoon Lake. Unbelievable beauty. A lot of wildlife, alligators. There's a place where you wake up in the morning and you look in the water and all you see is alligator eyes. They tend to kind of go away during the heat of the day, but early in the morning, it's unbelievable. Hundreds of alligators and manatees. I saw everything over there.
And manatees are really protected, especially in the mangroves, where if you see a manatee, there's propeller marks all over their backs.
Yes.
It's really sad.
In fact, certain parts of Florida, boats ahead would radio and say, "Hey, be careful! Coming up, there's a bunch of manatees. I see at this cut, or they're hanging around here." So it's to the point where people are radioing ahead to people following them, telling them to be careful because there's a bunch of manatees there.
Okay.
It's very cool.
Last couple questions.
Okay.
You got the shirt on. You're almost you belong to a new fraternity.
It is.
It's a fraternity that's growing,
It is.
and literally by leaps and bounds.
Still, the numbers are low. Like in 2022, how many people do you think finished the loop? No matter where they started.
Not a clue.
It's only 220, 230.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, that is surprising.
And that was a record year.
That's surprising.
And 2023 is going to surpass that.
Not by much, though.
I'm guessing could be as
So we're not
high,
talking thousands. We're talking hundreds.
maybe 300
Okay.
tops. Okay. So it's still a pretty small fraternity
Okay.
that have the gold loop, and even smaller for people that do it more than once.
By putting the flag on the front of the boat, when you
Yeah.
pull into a specific spot, do they know marinas? Do they know that you're doing it? Do they treat you differently than they might treat somebody from
Some
travel?
marinas do. The marinas on the route that are very familiar with loopers, some have discounts for loopers. And the camaraderie, people just know about the loop and they walk up and chat to you about the boat, and you see other loopers. That's how you identify other loopers as well.
We can both agree you can't do it on a sailboat.
I think I've seen several sailboats that are doing it.
Okay.
I think there's a few key things.
Retractable mast, which they don't make, but I get the point.
You got to take the mast down to Chicago,
Right.
Because go through the inland rivers is. And the
Wouldn't
other
make it.
Yeah. The other thing is you got to do is you have to have a relatively shallow keel. A 6-foot draft sailboat, which is kind of what I had before.
Right.
You could do it, but there'd be a lot of
my old day with his shoal draft.
Yeah.
I can draft it 36 inches,
Oh.
40 inches of
From
water.
a draft point of view, you can do it. In that
And we know a
race.
lot of folks have their mast taken in Chicago and then shipped to Mobile.
Yes.
That's actual a business for people.
Yes, it is. And then you put raise the mast in Mobile and go from there. If you're going to go through the Erie Canal, you got to do the same thing, but you don't have to. The other thing about a sailboat is it's extremely economical. The cost of fuel in a sailboat is nothing.
I come down the St. Mary's River, I come down the Detroit River. How fast is the Mississippi coming down, and how far is some of the rivers? Are they pretty quick?
In some spots, yes. Nothing like the Blue Water Bridge here in
Right.
Sarnia. This is what, 5 knots?
No, it's enough there to try to go under like I did about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, you'll feel
I've
it.
got a 22 horse engine and I got it all the way full and I'm doing I think 2.1.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
The other really bad current that I saw was, so you're going most of the time with the current down to Illinois, or the Mississippi. At one point, you got to turn up the Ohio, and you're going against the current. And that stretch, I think I was going like 12 miles an hour with the current. And then once I made that turn, I dropped to like 6 or 7. it was just unbelievable.
All right, since we've chronicled this pretty well, I guess my last question is really pretty simple. You're sitting at home watching this.
Yeah,
You've been thinking about it. You were the same guy.
yeah.
What flipped the switch? And then you talked a little bit about sort of like last winter you made the determination.
Yeah.
But was there one little thing that said, okay, this is it, we're going? Or was it just sort of the culmination of reading and studying and planning? Was it all of that?
It was all of that, and I knew I was going to be going fairly early on, but there's always this: am I prepared enough? Is the boat prepared enough? Maybe I should delay. I finally had to put a line in the sand and say I'm leaving on July 15th last year, and I didn't get everything done that I wanted to get done, but I left anyway. And
Goes back to that spontaneity that you lack.
Exactly. I was gonna. The boat was gonna be perfect before I left, and everything was gonna be stocked, and everything. You know what? You're not traveling in the middle of nowhere. There's always a grocery. There's always a Walmart close by.
Or 7-Eleven somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're not gonna starve, or you're not gonna lack for supplies or boat parts or anything like that.
So it would be fair to say do it before you don't do it.
Oh, absolutely. I think I overplanned it a little bit maybe in the beginning, and I know I overpacked it. So definitely, next loop is going to be a little bit less intense.
Okay. I guess this is my last question. We
No
talked
rush.
about fishing rods, which I'm assuming we need to get that fishing rod to some kind of fishing hall of fame, because I don't think it ever came off the wall, but maybe
No,
once.
it came a couple times. I used it a couple times. Did I catch anything? No, but it got used.
Is it fair to say you're not a fisherman?
Yes, it is very fair to say that. But there's still hope.
There's still hope.
Yeah, I got the fishing rod, and I'm in Michigan. Are you kidding? You know, Crescent, some of the best fishing on the lake is right here.
Do you know how to clean fish? Okay, because I don't. That's why I'm asking the question. I never went hunting, because if I actually shot a deer, I would have no idea what to do with it. I wouldn't know how to gut it. I'd have no man skills.
Let's put it this way.
All right.
Okay. When I packed for the trip, I packed a fillet knife, and I packed a cutting board. Did I ever use them?
I
No.
was going to say, except for cutting your shoelaces with the fillet knife, that was what it was.
But there's always hope.
All right. Well, listen, next adventure out, we hope we'll do the same thing. I think this is just a phenomenal thing.
It is. It's been
And
amazing.
I think it's been one of the highlights of the program for us. Lots of people watched it, and it's just been really fun. But I think the cool part for me is watching you having an opportunity and doing some things that you took a few left-handed turns, and that's been pretty cool to watch.
I really appreciate everything you've done, and thank you for recording this and offering to your viewers. And again, if you have any questions or any of your viewers have any follow-up or need any detail, just let me know.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You take care.
Just wanted to thank Bruce and Nagui for talking to us a little bit about both the Transperior and the Great Loop. I think there's some insight there, and it certainly enhanced the episode. We'll be back next week with a little bit about Women on Water, the Detroit Cup, and a few other activities that are surrounding our sailing world, including a race that goes on up in Lake St. Clair up in the north end. And we'll put that information together, and we'll see you next week.